Dystopia tonight. Dystopia tonight.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good, man. I haven't seen you in forever. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I've just been staying home a lot.
No,
you know.
Really? Why?
Yeah, I don't know. I just haven't felt like going outside lately.
You know what? I'm the same way, man. I get that. I feel like everybody's doing that now. I love your Instagram, by the way, because you shamelessly promote your cats. And I don't know, like, I love, I mean, the dedication to your cats is incredible. I have a cat, too.
Yes, I've exploited them on social media to build up followers, and they always resented it. But that was the subject of my book, Cats v. Conniff, when they sued me. They sued me for defamation.
That's incredible.
But yeah, my cats are unfortunately my other cat Barney passed away earlier this year, but Millie is still around, and she still resents me for it.
I feel like cats' main mode of emotion is resentment, no matter what.
Yeah, the resentment, disdain, judgment.
Yeah, even when they're being like, my cat loves to like at nighttime, like just wherever I'm sitting, no matter where I am in the house, he'll just sit on me. But he always does it with like a little bit of like he's just annoyed that he even needs it, and I'm like, it's fine, dude, just let it go.
Yeah.
You know, you like it, I like it.
They don't like to admit that they like it when you give them stuff, and because they're entitled. They're the ultimate in entitlement culture.
Yep. Yeah, they're the Gen Z and millennials. I'm a millennial, but whatever. They taught us how. So I hope you don't even mind, but I'm going to ask you about a bunch of stuff, but mostly because we never got to talk when I did Fugal Settings, because we were just always talking politics and trying to solve the world's problems.
Which we did.
We did. Yeah, it's all done.
It's all done.
Yeah, and you were you carried a lot of that weight. Yes. So we appreciate it. People loved you, by the way. I remember, because when they would tweet out the show, I would always get whatever, and like everybody that fucking commented, it was like, we love Frank, TV's Frank, like all the time, and I was just like, oh my god, he's got a lot of love, which must feel great. But I don't know how you, like, when you got started in it, which is by the way, I know it's a very generic question, but I really don't know. Like, I know you from MST3K, used to watch it all the time. Which I always wanted to mention when I was in there, but always tried to keep it like chill. Because I was like, we're all professionals, everything's fine. But I don't know when you got started in like comedy and stuff.
Well, I started, I attempted to do comedy in New York in the early 80s. But I had I had like a drug problem back then, and it really got in my way of doing the things that I wanted to do. So in 1985, I went to rehab in Minnesota, where I'd never been before, ever. The only thing I knew about the Twin Cities was the Mary Tyler Moore Show. That was all I knew about it.
Right.
I'd never, but they have like a big rehab community there. So I went there in October of 1985, and I went to rehab, and then I was in a halfway house for like 3 months after that. So then, like around the beginning of '86, I got out, and I liked Minneapolis like right from the start, and I was like, you know what, New York City has all the places I used to get in trouble at, and this has none of those things. So I'm just going to stay here for a while, see what happens.
Wow.
And then I started doing stand-up comedy again, and
in Minneapolis.
In Minneapolis, yes. Wow. And as luck would have it, Minneapolis, as many cities did in the 80s, that was the the comedy club boom. Minneapolis had like 5 full-time comedy clubs, and it had an incredible stand-up comedy scene of great talents like, Joel Hodgson, Liz Winstead, Jeff Cesario, Louis Anderson, like, and like dozens of others that you might not have heard of, but who were there and who were very funny. And
Jeff's going to be on the show in a week.
Oh, well, we'll say hi to him for me,
I
please.
will.
But so then I just stayed there and I started doing comedy. And then, unlike in New York, where my personal problems were getting in my way and I wasn't making any traction, in Minneapolis, like, I started getting stage time right away and I started getting work right away. And that was, the Minneapolis Twin Cities stand-up comedy scene. That's where I met Mike Nelson and Trace Beaulieu and Joel Hodgson and Mary Jo Peele and Bridget Jones and and J. Elvis Weinstein, who I replaced on Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah. Holy shit.
So I knew all of them. And then when Josh left the show to come out to LA, they were looking for a replacement, and they just called me up and said, "Do you want the job?" I mean, it was as simple as that, because they knew me. They thought I was fun. And they also knew that I was a film buff and that I had that kind of a pop culture sponge that was kind of required for that job. And it just all happened very naturally. And like I said, my whole saga there is just an example of just being really lucky, and just things working out.
Yeah. So was the pop culture thing kind of prevalent in your stand-up back then too, or did you kind of keep it because you're? It
was, but I wasn't. It's not like I was doing like a lot of obscure references in my stand-up back when I was standing. In Minneapolis, I really started doing stand-up that was more personal, more based on my life and stuff. Wasn't really doing anything political back then at all.
Yeah,
and so like when I'm on a stage in front of 300 people, like I don't really want to do an obscure reference that they don't get. I really want to make them. I'd really rather they laugh, And but like as I've gotten older, though, I think like actually when I moved to LA and I started, I moved to LA in 1995, and that was like kind of another example of me just walking into a scene that, that was like when the whole alternative comedy movement was starting, and people weren't, at least a lot of people there in LA were kind of eschewing comedy clubs and doing coffee houses and bookstores, and I got to be part of that whole. And so when that started happening, then I think I was a little more willing to just do weird, obscure stuff, because the audience that audience kind of like that kind of stuff,
And did you were in MST3K in the 90s? Did that help you cultivate your own following then, or were you just because you were still doing stand up when you were on the show, right?
Although I didn't, at first, the show really didn't help me build up a stand up following, because Minneapolis for a long time, like we weren't even on the cable system there, the early days of cable were like, the era we're in now, where like any cable system you have will probably have Comedy Central, that just wasn't the case back then. And so it's much more of an underground thing. And actually the really surprising thing that happened is that we became much more famous after the show went off the air, and then the internet and people continued to watch it, and it became more popular through the years. And now it's now is when we're really cashing in on it, which is great. It's such a great thing,
That makes sense, kind of too, because when I was a kid, when I was in high school, I worked at a Suncoast Video. That's dating everybody.
Oh, Suncoast, sure.
Yeah, I worked at a Suncoast and I worked at a Walden Books, and they were side by side, and I would just change out of one and walk over to the other, go back in between. But I remember when MST3K had this cult following boom, because we just had Mystery Science Theater shit all over the place. Yeah, and it was the DVDs and stuff, and all the obscure episodes.
Yeah, the DVD box sets and stuff, they did really well. They were first. Rhino put them out, and then a lot of the people from Rhino, I think, went over to Shout Factory, and then and now Mystery Science Theater is owned by the franchise is owned by Shout Factory now, and they do a great job with it, and they're really, really great people, and they really take good care of us, Right. So that's been a great thing.
And when you were on that show, I was wondering, because now that I know you a little bit better, you're very quick, you're very smart, and you've got the pop culture vibe. Did you ever want to do the commentary? Did you ever feel like, oh man, I wish I was sitting in that theater doing one of the puppets?
It was. I kind of just enjoyed being able to write for the puppets and write for the hosts, and that was satisfying. And also the one thing about Trace Beaulieu and Kevin Murphy, I never envied how they had to sit there with their hands up, holding, that just seemed like I know, knowing me, I know I would be so uncomfortable doing that. And it's puppeteering, which is a great art form. It's something that I never looked at as something I was interested in pursuing,
Right.
So and Trace and Kevin were so good at it,
Yeah, they were really good at it. I guess that helps, because I always wonder, always ask comedians, who are also wound up writing for a show too, if they ever have a conflict of man, I wish I was saying my joke the way when I was writing for people too, sometimes, I had to stop watching when they would go on certain shows, because if they butchered the joke, or if they didn't get to say it, or if they delivered it incorrectly, I'd be like, fuck.
Well, that became more of an issue for me as I wrote on other television shows, where you're not necessarily completely in sync with the sensibility of the host,
right?
That you're trying to write for. You're trying to figure out what's the best kind of jokes for the host, or for the actors, or for the characters to do. On Mystery Science Theater, we were all, in terms of our comedic sensibilities, we all were so on the same page,
Nice. Yeah, so you guys seem to gel well.
If I wrote a joke for Crow, or Tom Servo, or Mike, or Joel, I knew they would just nail it. I knew they would understand exactly what it was supposed to be.
Right.
And that was never. I remember the first time we did a live show was in Minneapolis, decades ago. And I remember, and Joel and Trace and Kevin were on stage, and we were showing a movie, and there was a packed audience. And I was sitting backstage, and the first joke was a joke I wrote, and it got a big laugh. And I remember just sitting backstage, just feeling so satisfied.
Yeah.
Just feeling great that something I wrote did well. I didn't necessarily have to be up there. Although I am a total ham, and I love being, I love being the center of attention, but I also, there's something great too about working with other people who are great that you can kind of collaborate with,
Yeah. That's awesome. And it did I like when I'm watching a TV show and I feel like everybody else has the same sensibility, and they're also having a good time when they're on it together.
Yeah. I think the best shows, whether it's SCTV or Monty Python, I think you always get that vibe from them.
SCTV. Yeah. Oh my God, that's so true. Yeah. They all just looked like they were having a blast.
Yeah.
So you went from Minneapolis to LA, and then eventually, so is the timeline a huge jump from there to New York?
Well, I went to LA in 94, 95.
And that's when you left MST3K, right?
Yeah, I was at MST for 5 seasons, and I just kind of wanted to do something different and see if I could write on other shows, and
cool.
So I did that, and then I was in LA for a long time. I mean, for like 17 years or something like that, and I really liked it out there, and but in the last few years, I was kind of looking for a job, and the job offer that I got was from John Fugelsang in New York, who I don't know if you remember the Current TV channel. It was
I was on it.
Oh yeah. And he had a show there, and he called me and said, "Hey, if you want to write for me on the show, there's a job for you." And I was like, and I wasn't necessarily anxious to leave LA or to move to New York, but it was a job, and plus I knew I would love working with John.
Yeah.
So it was a very easy decision to make. And then once I moved back to New York, like now I've been back for like 10 years, and I just feel so comfortable being here now.
Right. Did you know John? When did you meet John? But prior to the, or was
I met John. I think we first met doing stand-up comedy. Nice. Just meeting each other in clubs. But the first time I worked with him, he did a show in LA for the TV Guide channel, which I don't know if you remember. I don't know if that's still around, but it was like the top half was the show, and the bottom half was
oh my God,
schedule.
I do remember that.
The weirdest thing. The schedule was going constantly.
Right.
So you were only kind of on half of television, which is
weird.
But he had a show there called TV Water Cooler, which was just like kind of, they'd interview people from TV shows, and then there'd be sketches and there'd be jokes. So I got hired to write on that, and his co-host on that show, Teresa Strausser, is another really good friend of mine, one of my closest friends. And so I worked on that, and that was like kind of the first time I worked with John, and that was really fun. And then, like I said, when he got this show on Current TV, he asked me to come, and then later when he got on Sirius, he, like the first day, he said, "Hey, do you want to come down and be a guest?" And I'm like, "Okay." And then I just never left. I just kept coming in every day, and they were fine with it, So
that's fantastic.
Yeah,
that's great. You're like Milton in Office Space, where they're like just giving you checks for no reason. Like, what the fuck is going on? There's a cot in there. That's cool. I remember. See, that's the craziest thing. I do remember the TV Guide shows when I would use the Guide channel or whatever, and then I remember. Obviously, Current TV is the one that sticks in my mind, and that's the most recent thing to me before Sirius. But then there was another show. Did you write? I can't think of what it was, but I remember he interviewed Bill Maher on it. Can't remember the show, but it was a 2-parter. But the second part never aired, and I think John told me later that they were like, "Yeah," because it got canceled in between.
Oh, I don't know if I was a part of that. I don't remember that.
Okay, I think it was like right before. It was so funny because I was like jumbling all the shows together.
Before John's current show, he was on CNN a lot. He was a regular.
He was that.
That was like the 2000, either 2012, I think, because that was the year Mitt Romney. The year Mitt Romney was the Republican nominee, and John was a regular on Soledad O'Brien's morning show. And this to give you an idea of how different CNN was, that they would have someone as awesome as Soledad O'Brien on their network back then.
Right.
Of course, she's not there anymore, but he was and Mitt Romney's campaign manager was on, and John asked him a question, and the answer he gave was, well, John asked him, like, how will your campaign be different after you get the nomination in the fall as opposed to the primaries? And the campaign manager said, well, it'll be like an Etch-a-Sketch, we'll just shake it. And that was, I don't know if you remember, that was like a huge story at the time. It was gigantic.
Yeah.
And John is the one who asked the question that prompted that. But that was just a few months, I think, before he ended up on with the current TV show. Yeah.
Oh, the current TV show. Wow.
Yeah.
It is crazy how they went from Soledad O'Brien to fucking Chuck Todd.
I know.
When you just said that, it reminded me of Soledad being on there. I got so fucking sad just now.
Yeah.
That's insane. So then it was, wow. Then you went to Sirius. Then you said you never left. That's crazy. You have I like that you're
well, until they asked me to leave finally a few years later.
Well, I wasn't. Are you allowed to talk about that?
Yeah, I can. I mean,
please, because I was on, I've been on, I think I've been doing it for 3-4 years, like twice a month or whatever. And every time I was there, you were there. And then there were days where John was gone and you guest hosted and I was on and we had a blast.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I came in one day and you were fucking gone. Yeah. And then I was like, but then I came in another time and I was like, what the fuck happened to Frank? And then, text messages were sent and
what happened was Chris Christie, the former governor of
shit. Yeah, I know. I fucking hate that guy.
Well, what I got in trouble for was mostly before I got in trouble. When I would talk about Chris Christie, it would be to do really crude fat jokes and to fat shame him, and that never got me in trouble at all.
Right,
but when he was coming in to promote his book, and and he was on every Sirius show, and it was a big deal, and I just was so not cool with it, treating this guy with respect, like he's a pundit that we need to hear from. Like I was just so opposed to the whole thing, and there was a poster in the lobby of Sirius with his picture, and he was like in the fishbowl there doing an interview with someone, and I took a picture of it and then I posted it on Twitter, and I said it's it's fucking piece of shit Friday here at Sirius XM, and I was being provocative because I tagged Sirius XM so in other words, I was kind of going out of my way to let them know. And then the next day I was fired. So
I fucking love that though. Yeah. I didn't know that. I'd heard it was a couple, it was like a Chris Christie thing or whatever, but I love that you did. That's a me move. I would I feel like every now, this is, by the way, this is Tom, my producer. Tom, this pleasure. But every now and again, I mean, this is just what we're doing for whatever, but every now and then I swear to God, I'll say something about somebody on here. And Tom's just like, maybe you want to not? And I'm like, I don't care.
Right.
But that's great that you tagged Sirius in the fucking tweet. That's hilarious.
Yeah. And I heard about it, Jorge, who he was the producer of our show. Great guy. He heard from them immediately and said, Frank, you might want to take that down. And then I did take it down because I didn't want to get him in trouble and John in trouble. But it was too late for me, though. I hear you.
Do you feel okay about it? I mean, now, because I wrestle with that sometimes. I have a series. I did a short film called Dup It. And it's about a depression. I have to send it to you sometime, by the way. But you're like, please don't. I don't want to watch anything. Not one more short film. It's 11 minutes, though. It's fine. So anyway, it's about depression, and it's got a puppet in it, but we call it Dup It because it's a depression puppet. But we got a thing with Henson before COVID started, and then my writing partner was like, hey, when things pick back up, he's like, will you delete all the stuff you said about the police and your BLM stuff? And I was like, no.
Yeah.
I was like, absolutely not.
Well, that's the thing too, is the things you put on Twitter can get you in trouble. And I was actually I was talking to Fugelsang because, and this just kind of points to the hypocrisy of a lot of stuff, because when Alex Trebek died, the first person I thought of who would be a great is that Millie? Are you okay? It's my cat. Anyway,
for half a second I was like, do you have a baby?
Yeah, no, I think she's not feeling too good. But anyway, yeah. That I said to John, I said, John Fugelsang was my immediate thought. He would be the perfect new host of Jeopardy. He would be so good on it. And I said that to John, and he said, with my history of political tweets, they're never going to hire me. And he's probably right about that. But then this week, they had as their guest host Dr. Oz, who's like this grifter who spread false information about COVID and stuff, and yet it's okay for him to be the guest host of Jeopardy. So that just shows how full of shit these people are.
100%, dude. And that's the thing. That's one of the reasons why I said I won't delete some of that stuff, because I feel like it would be hypocritical of me to do it. And I do wrestle with that kind of stuff, because I'm like, I understand how things work. I understand some things people are not going to want to back or whatever, but also I got to be true to who I am anyway. You know what I mean? I feel like we're on the right, it seems like common sense shit to me, support BLM, all that other stuff. And you're 100% right about Dr. Oz. And we just did a thing recently, Tom knows, but we have a guy on our channel who's a good friend or whatever, but he, works for Dr. Oz. And I said some shit about what you just said to that extent, because I know he peddles these diet fucking pills and all that other crap. And I feel like I'm not saying anything that's not true. If we're going to bring up the guy, own it. That's all you can do.
Exactly.
But that bothered me when Dr. Oz was fucking on hosting that fucking show too. It kills me that we have to pedal to that kind of shit too. Because Chris Christie fucked over. I mean, my mom was a state employee for years, and he was unmercifully unkind to state employees and their benefits or whatever. She was there for 25 years. Her health care got slashed, and to teachers. And a lot of my friends are teachers in this state. And to fucking pretend that what he says has any weight to it kills me.
I mean, he's and he left New Jersey with the lowest polls of any politician in the history. Yeah. And yet he's on ABC every week, and they ask him his wisdom on what Biden should do to be and he's like, why would you ask him? He has no idea.
It's crazy. It's so disheartening too, because it's I think about this all the time, and the amount of work the American public has to, you and I feel dive into political stuff, and we enjoy doing the research behind it and going, this site's bullshit, this site's not, whatever. But average people, it's so fucking, I mean, I say average, I don't mean we're extraordinary, but you know what I mean? People who are just doing their thing.
I forgot you were superheroes. Go on.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. We are. Frank and I have our own capes, and we fight crime at night. You should see our Snyder cut. It's great. So
8 hours long.
Yeah. There were some scenes, by the way, in that movie that I was like, that was pretty good. If it didn't take 4 fucking days to get to it, that was a good scene.
Exactly.
Yeah, but for people who don't consume the news the way we do, how they supposed to get the right fucking information? You know what I mean? It's totally insane. And that's why I don't always I try to remind myself not to fault people for, buying into BS or not knowing which direction to go with some stuff, because again, look at you said before, CNN, Soledad O'Brien, and now we're at Chuck Todd level.
Yeah, or or the other people that are there. I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted. I have to clean up my cat's puke.
It's fine.
My cat just threw up.
You know what's crazy? I knew exactly what you were doing. As a cat owner, as soon as you got up with a roll of paper towels, I was like, oh, he's going to clean up puke.
Yeah.
Although I do love the shirt, Fangoria.
Yes.
That brings back memories, right?
Oh, thanks. Yeah. That's I got it. I did a this film festival upstate New York with Dana Gould, and I got this. It was a great thing.
His new show is fantastic.
Oh, it's really great.
It's hilarious. So I got to ask though, how have you been holding up through the pandemic and stuff? I mean, you haven't been able to go out. I know you're like me; you're not going out doing stand up randomly.
No, I'm not, and I've just been been the only time I go out is I go out to get groceries, and I go for a walk every day, which is very helpful.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I go for bike rides and stuff, but not.
What the thing that's helped me more than anything that makes me such a lucky person is that Trace, you and I have been doing we were doing live shows of our movie riffing show. The Mads are back.
Yeah.
And that all went away because we performed in movie theaters and stuff, and that all stopped, and then so we started doing them online as monthly shows, and they've been very successful, and so that's been for me just a huge blessing.
Yeah. And you have your new podcast that you do. See, that's another thing too, is like I started the podcasting thing a little maybe like by around Thanksgiving, right, Tom? I think we all started doing it. Yeah, and then it felt good, but like my friends and I had already been doing this like virtually and stuff like that, so that helps a little bit too. But I do miss the stand up, but not enough to pretend that shit's not going on,
Yeah, I mean, I miss it, but I'll go back when it's when it's all clear to go back. I'll go back, but
same,
not before then. I mean, you've got like Chappelle doing shows in Texas, and then he gets COVID.
I know.
It's like you should. And it's also sets a bad example when people do that kind of stuff.
I agree too. I mean, like it's crazy to me because I think the misconception is like, if Chappelle gets COVID, Chappelle has the money to battle COVID effectively. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I have a friend who died a few weeks ago. She and I started stand up together. She was being safe, and when she got it, it was by happenstance, and she wasn't doing anything reckless. And I mean, she went the next day.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, and it was, and it's like, it's terrible, and it's like, but I just don't think people see that, and I don't want to be like, as much as I want to go back out on the road and I want to do what I enjoy, I don't want to have people coming to see me thinking it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, because every time you loosen like a little bit of a restriction like that, you're just basically telling people it's okay. And then they think it's okay to do another.
I think we just have to be patient. I mean, there's a light at the end of the tunnel now, and we just have to just continue to be really careful. I got my first vaccine.
Oh, nice.
My second one is coming up in about a week or so. So,
that's awesome.
So hopefully, by the summer, I think
you'll be out licking people and.
Well, I think that the fall is probably more realistic in terms of things being sort of back to normal, and I don't think everything will really be back to normal probably till next year.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it kind of bums me out.
Okay. Very in for a penny, in for a pound. If it's like people don't, there's no like, I can do this one thing without being totally out. And if you do, it's almost like you have to convey that no, this is an exception to the norm. It's not that you'll see me like this all the time.
Right.
People don't grasp that enough. Like if they see you out, they're like, oh, I see you're out now. I'm like, no, I'm a godfather to this kid, so I attended the church with a mask on. I'm like, that's not me going to a club or going to
right. Or going to spring break.
Exactly.
Oh my God, the spring break people. I'm fucking. It's hilarious because it's almost like I use this word loosely, blessing, that I just don't have to go to people's weddings anymore. And if they insisted on having them, I'm like, oh my God, I don't have to talk to you anymore either. This is a great fucking day. You're a scumbag and I don't have to attend your wedding. This is amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I know it's hard for a lot of people, but I feel like you said, there's that light at the end of the tunnel. I'm waiting for, if my mom, when my mom gets a vaccine, then I'll worry about when I'm going to get one. And and the rest is, it'll fall in. I just hope we don't go back to I feel like it's going to be a real bummer if we wind up, when they say back to normal, if it winds up going back to 2019 behavior, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like if we haven't learned anything from it, and then we wind up just settling back into our old, because that's what I feel sometimes. Like I'm being dragged through life by morons.
Well, yeah, but you know what? Like after 9/11, like people thought the world was really going to change, and then it really didn't. I mean, and America now, I think, nothing really gets through to people. I mean, we have mass shootings every week, and
I know,
and they sometimes they barely get reported. So it's. I think some things will be different after the pandemic, but I think it'll be in ways we can't really predict yet.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to probably still, when I go to stores, I'm probably going to still wear a mask for a long time, and it's going to be like in, like I was in Tokyo once, and you go on the subway there, and like a third of the people are wearing masks, and it's in that culture. If you have a cold, you put on a mask, and it's like a sign of respect to everyone else. That if you went to your workplace and you were sneezing and you didn't have a mask on, people were like, "What?" Yeah, be like, "Why are you being such a jerk?" So there are societies that already are there, and I think that's something I'm going to try to be more cognizant of in the future. Is just right. And I'll probably, when I go to the grocery store, I'll probably keep wearing a mask even after the pandemic is over.
Yeah, same. I mean, it makes more sense now, especially. And the other thing too is like we do live in a society that for some reason, like I remember this even when I was young and I was working in like retail and shit. It's like we like hold people on a pedestal who come into work when they're fucking sick, and it's like I could never wrap my head around that shit. I'm like, you're not a hero. I'm touching the same phone as you.
That's a great point. Yeah. It's it's all backwards.
It totally is. So can you tell me a little bit about your podcast with Irene before we 10 minutes left, and then
it's called Mother May I Podcast with Irene and Frank, and it's just an hour every week. It's live. It's 2 p.m. on Tuesdays.
Nice.
And we just have one of our friends on, and we have a hour-long conversation, and that's the whole thing, and it's usually pretty fun. And
I'm not familiar with that platform.
And sometimes we give out some good information and stuff, and we had a whole show about grief the other day, and it's just fun. Irene is a person that I really became friends with through the John Fugelsang show.
I was going to ask when you met her. Yeah, you met her through John's show.
Well, I met her doing stand-up. But I really got to know her because she came on the show a lot.
That's cool. Yeah, it's a fun show, man, and I wish you luck with it. And I hope you do
find it.
Yeah,
where can we go to find it?
I think all of your basic. If you go to my Twitter and Irene Bremis on Facebook, and it's available on all the platforms. So
Okay. Carol Montgomery says hi, by the way.
Oh, hi, Carol. I love Carol.
I talked to her
Carol
yesterday.
Is the best.
She is the best. I told her you're coming on yesterday. She told me to tell you. She says hi.
I love her.
Yeah, she's awesome. That's another thing too, man. This is just good because you get to see people that you haven't seen in a while too. So you're just shooting shit.
Yeah.
Well, that's great, dude. Well, thank you so much, man, for coming on and making the time for me. And I miss seeing you on Sirius and stuff. So hopefully I'll get to see you more on the road maybe in the future.
I hope so. I hope we're all spreading germs with each other soon in the future.
That'd be beautiful. What a nice future.
Dystopia tonight.